Elite Facts presents
10 insane methods used throughout history to cure illness.
10.
Cure a toothache by torturing a mole. This comes from a 17th century book of medical advice. To cure a toothache, take a live mole, pop it into a brass pot, clap on the lid, and let it die an agonizing death from dehydration and/or starvation. Once the poor creature's suffering is at an end, chop up its tiny furry corpse, remove the innards, and dry the rest near the fire. Now hold the mummified mole parts to your sore face. Don't have the guts to listen to the mole's desperate struggles to escape your cruel trap? Well, another book advises cutting off the foot of a live mole and hanging it around your neck. How's your tooth feel now?
9.
Treat liver complaints with a urine injection. In previous centuries, doctors reached for the syringe, the clyster or enema syringe, not the hypodermic, to treat a number of illnesses. The medicine injected into the poor patient's bowels varied depending on the effect the physician wished to produce. Not just water, but broth, ox gall, opium, wine, tea, even tobacco smoke might be introduced. For sufferers of liver complaints such as psoriasis, the go-to remedy was a series of urine enemas. Oh, not the patients, just whoever's urine the doctor could scare up. For severe cases, the clyster syringe was filled with a blend of urine and strong coffee to grant a caffeinated jolt of healing power.
8.
To treat jaundice, you can dig for dung. To treat jaundice in the 18th century, a perfectly respectable white wine was ruined by adding a quantity of sheep's droppings and creating an alcoholic tincture of poop. Sheep's poop, to be precise. A wine glass of this concoction, enlivened by the addition of saffron and turmeric, was gagged down by the patient at night after retiring. The pharmacopoeia notes that the patient should take care to avoid catching a cold, as the medicine doth incline a little to sweat. Hey, if you knew you had to drink a glass of sheep shit right before bedtime, wouldn't you be covered in flop sweat? Of course, if this is too much trouble, just add some fresh sheep's dung to a cup of beer or ale.
7.
Cure gout by inflicting pain. Gout is a painful condition, no doubt about it. However, the logic of combating pain with pain escapes us, but it didn't escape the physicians of old, who recommended patients suffering from gout whip themselves with stinging nettles until their skin was inflamed and blistered. Some patients preferred to have a servant whip them, or the doctor himself would see to the treatment. Or perhaps the very friendly lady down at the local bordello would have an enthusiastic go at urtication for just a few extra dollars.
6.
Cure gingivitis by gargling with urine. Suffering from bleeding, swollen, decaying gums, and loose teeth? Toothbrushing and dental hygiene weren't commonplace in the 18th century, and dentistry consisted mainly of yanking or chiseling out rotten teeth while the patient screamed in agony. However, help was at hand for the brave of heart, or those desperate to try all natural remedies available for relief, no matter how bizarre. A French doctor of the time advocated gargling with urine to cure gingivitis. The patient's own morning urine, of course, unless there was a baby handy or a woman of respectable habits, and one could get fresh, warm urine straight from the source.
5.
Cure eye inflammation with spit. A traditional ingredient for ringworm and wart treatments, fasting spittle, the first saliva in the mouth on waking in the morning, was also used for eye inflammations. It was good enough for Jesus Christ. You can cite Mark 8:23-25 on that. Doctors reckoned it was good enough for them. The spit was applied directly to the inflamed eye, not necessarily the patient's own spit, mind you. Could be the doctor felt the urge to work up saliva and try his luck, or a total stranger might be brought in to donate to the cause. 4. Purify the blood by eating a spoonful of insect excrement. Pine honey, an old-fashioned name given to the secretions of a species of aphid, or in layman's terms, bug poop, was mixed with sarsaparilla and assorted flowers to produce a medicinal syrup that was supposed to purify the patient's blood. This was believed to be especially effective when used in conjunction with purging. The administration of strong laxatives kept you clamped to the chamber pot or the seat above the cesspit if you were lucky enough to have one, in an era before flush toilets or squeezable soft paper. Perhaps after much mighty purging, you no longer cared if the doctor spooned insect excrement into your mouth.
3,
Cure a cough by chugging a slug and earthworm smoothie. In the 17th century, if you suffered from an annoying, persistent cough, the best remedy could be found in your garden. Slugs and earthworms of middling size were bruised by being slightly mashed with a blunt instrument. The worms were cut up alive, then added with the slugs to a pot of spring water, brought to a boil, and poured over candied sea holly root. Now, if slugs were unavailable, ordinary snails would do, but the doctor had to fish out the shells afterwards. A pint of this dubious liquid was added to a pint of milk and drunk by the patient. The concoction was also said to cure consumption, another name for tuberculosis.
2,
Need help with dry breast milk? Just visit the blacksmith. There may come a time when a child is being weaned that a nursing mother wants to dry up her breast milk. Or perhaps the new mom doesn't want to breastfeed at all, but Mother Nature has other plans. In some parts of 19th century Europe, women with milk-swollen breasts turned to Smith's water, the bucket of water used by blacksmiths to quench their red-hot implements, as the quickest way to accomplish their aim. The water was splashed on the breasts and left to air dry. Supposedly, the water had somehow become charged with heat from the smith's forge, and heat makes things dry, right?
1,
Cure asthma by swallowing a frog. No inhalers for asthma sufferers in the 18th and early 19th centuries. Instead, physicians recommended swallowing a young frog each day. A live frog, well buttered, should the patient have difficulty choking the struggling amphibian down their gullet. Lends new meaning to the phrase, a frog in your throat, doesn't it? Well, a slightly less traumatic version, or more traumatic depending on your point of view, was to bind a live frog to the patient's throat and leave the frog to fight hopelessly for its life until it finally expired. The prolonged death agonies were supposed to help the condition. And if the patient was unable to handle the frog, well, a handful of live spiders, nice fat, juicy ones, might do the trick equally well if swallowed alive and kicking their 8 little feet in protest.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.